Hey y'all, just wanted to drop in here and give a little extra content and commentary around grids and layouts and how you might be able to use them within Adobe XD. If you haven't already, please watch those two videos that I've included above. They do a good job of talking about grids in general and how as designers you can use them and break them. They talk about gutters and column widths and things like that. And I want to just talk to you a little bit about how Adobe XD leverages grids within their system as you begin to build out your prototype. So I'm just going to quickly drop in a new artboard here. You can do that by using this little artboard key here on the far left panel that you've got. I like the shortcut key, so I just hit the letter A, and I'm going to drop in our web browser artboard size for this project. So 1366 wide, it brought it in down where I didn't want it to, so I'm just going to drag it up here to this space so we can talk a little bit about what you're seeing here. So in Adobe XD, it will kind of pre-populate the grid, the 12 column grid for you for a desktop or laptop design. And so I can toggle that on and off by doing Command Shift and the apostrophe if I'm on a Mac. I can do it as well through the view and then hide layout grid or show layout grid. Now, I like to kind of turn these on and off as I begin to build my design. So for instance, I might quickly say that I want my navigation to appear here at the very top. I'm gonna fill that in just with a slightly darker color so you can see that. And as I begin to lay this out, I'm gonna contain my content to this grid. And what it does in Adobe XD is it snaps it very nicely, and I might be able to begin to quickly lay out the scaffolding for my layout and where my photos and things like that might come into play. So grids are really helpful, especially in Adobe XD, and I might just quickly begin to kind of relay out my wireframe in hopes that I can begin to layer in then my content as I bring this to life, add my photography, add my content, my text, and things like that. So grids, you'll probably turn them on and off as you design and lay things out, but those shortcut keys are really helpful. And as you drop in a laptop or the 1366 screen size that we'll be using for this project, those columns there will automatically be added to your artboard. Now, as you begin to lay out your page is going to scale. It's going to go beyond that 768 mark. And so you can see Adobe XD is really awesome that it layers in this breakpoint to let you know where the bottom of that laptop screen is. But you can extend this artboard as long as you need to based on your design. And it's going to add those columns and let those columns continue all the way through there. So super cool that XD does that. I just wanted to maybe talk a little bit then about layouts and some common layouts that maybe I've seen in some of the wireframes you've done so far, but then also some layouts around the web that are using the grid, but you might just not know that they are quite yet. So one of the grids that I see a lot is what I've called stacks. And so that's just 12 column kind of wide visual blocks as you go down the page. And if I was designing a page with stacks, I would continue to layer in maybe some high contrast visuals with some great typography as I go down the page and really leverage all 12 columns wide and allow the user to scroll down the page as I stack and layer my content. Now, one site that you might be familiar with that uses stacks is Apple's website. If you go to Apple, you'll see they have very beautiful photography, a lot of great typography, and as you scroll down the page, they're leveraging that kind of widescreen, 12 column width, full experience with their content just centered in the middle. So I'd call these, a stacked approach. Now, as you scroll down Apple's page, they block it off and they kind of do a 50-50 layout and leverage the columns, and 6 columns left, 6 columns right, and split it down the screen to break up the content a little bit. So Apple pretty much uses a hybrid approach, but they stack the top 3, and I just thought that might be a layout that you'd be familiar with, or a site that you'd be familiar with, leveraging this kind of stacked approach as you scroll down the page. Another type of layout that you might have seen is 60-40 layout, or 80-20 or 70-30, just a way that splits up the content that's not 50-50 right down the middle, 6 columns and 6 columns. So the 60-40 or 40-60, if I was to switch these up and kind of, you might see a layout that's kind of like this, or it might be reversed. But using the grid kind of with some content that's smaller width on the left or right hand side, matched with a wider block of content. This is common. Think of things like search results, or if you're shopping and you have filters on the side. Typically this kind of 60-40, 70-30 split is used in those areas. Now, I think a few of y'all have sites that, at least in the wireframes I've seen, looks like you might be able to leverage this kind of 60-40 or 70-30 type split. And so the grids do a great job for you to know exactly how that evenly might lay out within your website. And so that's a great, maybe a great example of that 60-40 or 70-30 split would be Amazon's site. You can see they probably use about 30% of their columns. So maybe theirs is, maybe they're doing like a 25-75 split here. So if you look at that, that's really common to maybe the search results and filters on Amazon's website, where you're running filters down the left-hand side or the right-hand side, and the bulk of your content then in that larger second half of the grid itself. So really common, that 70-30, 60-40 split when it comes to search results, filtering, shopping, and things like that. One other one that I just wanted to share with you that's a pretty common layout is this hybrid approach. And, you might look at this and say, well, is there a rhyme or reason to how this gets laid out? And sure, there absolutely is. When folks are using this hybrid approach, hybrid model, as opposed to the stacked approach, they're giving hierarchy to their content on the page. So for instance, a company might have this large 12-column hero graphic at the very top that's really captivating visually and is your first kind of large attention-getting block on your website. And as you scroll down, then they might give different levels of hierarchy to categories maybe, or to special offers and things like that. The main thing here is that though your content is evenly spaced and well laid out using that grid. So here I'm taking advantage of 12 columns, all 12 columns up top. I've split this second row into 4 3-column sections, and then maybe I'll follow that up with 2 6-column sections. But my content is all organized. It's orderly. It has a good spacing to it, and I'm able to kind of not have to kind of have my eyes all over the page, and everything is just kind of nice and structured as I begin to lay this out. Maybe one site that comes to mind that has this kind of hybrid approach to their layout is Target. If I scroll down Target's page, you can see that I have a large hero section at the very top, very attention getting. They want me to prep like a pro, 25% off kitchen appliances, but then they have other categories here as well. So you can tell they're gearing up for the Super Bowl. And this probably changes out when it's Christmas or the holidays, Thanksgiving. Maybe these will switch out to be more specific to the time or season that we're currently in. We're all prepping for the Super Bowl. And so they've highlighted a lot of things that, customers might be interested in getting as they approach Super Bowl time. As I scroll down the page, you can see they have some other feature call outs. This 6 and 6, 50-50 split. Then they go, they split their columns up into 3 here. So they're using 4 columns, 4 columns, 4 columns to create 3 feature blocks. And then they jump back and forth as you scroll down the page. So hopefully that begins, to let you kind of in to see how these websites are being laid out, leveraging the grid. 12-column grid is the most common grid in web design for laptops, websites, desktop websites, and things like that. Now, as you begin to lay out your mobile site, you'll see that things may change a little bit. So I'm going to drop in the iPhone X here, and you can see now instead of having 12 columns, I have 4. And you could squeeze 12 columns in here, but it'd get really tight and you probably wouldn't use it. So for mobile, it's traditionally a 4-column approach here. So you might have content that spans all 4 columns here. You might have content that spans 2 columns, and you might split it 50-50 down the page. And so on mobile, because you're on a smaller screen, The real estate's a little bit more valuable. You don't have as much width to run with and to work with. You'll see content layout in this 4-column grid down the page. Now, there's another variation to this. If I was to use maybe a tablet, let me just drop an iPad in here. You can see now, instead of having 4 columns like mobile and 12 columns like desktop, now on tablet I have 8 columns. And so this is called the responsive grid. And so even if I was designing this hybrid approach for if I was designing the hybrid approach that was responsive, and responsive meaning that I have a site that like Target that looks great on desktop, and when I experience it on my tablet, the site responds to that scale. If I experience it on mobile, the site responds to that. You've seen that as you've taken screenshots of your sites for your wireframes and for your businesses. Some sites don't respond very well at all. I know there's a few examples of sites that look the exact same layout for desktop and mobile, and then when that happens, you have to pinch and zoom on mobile, and it's just a terrible experience. But you can see though that even if I took this layout on that I just quickly designed here for my iPhone, I could drop that into my tablet, and you can see that it might respond in a very similar way. I can keep that same basic layout. It's just instead of 4 columns, now I'm dealing with 8. And instead of 8 columns, now I'm dealing with 12 when I get to desktop. So for our purposes, we're not too concerned about tablet right now. We're just looking at desktop and mobile. But I thought this would be helpful just to walk through some different types of layouts, some different types of ways that designs leverage the grid that I've seen that are pretty common that you might be familiar with. And maybe now that you have a chance to see kind of behind the scenes as folks, you leverage the 12-column grid for desktop, and how these companies like Apple and Amazon and Target leverage the grid differently, but all still within that 12-column space. So hopefully this video has been helpful to provide a little bit more context as you get started into your prototypes. But definitely please watch those 2 videos above. I'll be making some more videos here down below, but hopefully this is helpful to talk about grids and layouts. So talk to y'all later. Thanks.